The Great Hall of Nexus Prime had never seen such fear. Hundreds of alien beings sat in their floating chairs, whispering to each other in dozens of different languages. Their eyes were all focused on the giant screen that showed a small blue planet floating in the darkness of space. Ambassador Tae-jin stood at the center of the hall. His black hair was messy from running his hands through it too many times. His Earth uniform looked simple and plain next to the shiny clothes of the other aliens. He had been talking for hours, but no one wanted to listen. "Please," Tae-jin said, his voice echoing in the huge room. "My people need your help. The Draconian Empire is coming to Earth. We cannot stop them alone." A tall alien with purple skin laughed. "Human, your planet has only existed for a few thousand years. The Draconians have been conquering worlds for millions of years. They have never lost a single war." Council leader Vexitar raised one of his 4 arms. The room became quiet. Vexitar was older than most stars. His skin looked like old leather, and his eyes glowed with a soft blue light. He had watched thousands of planets fall to the Draconians. "Young human," Vexitar said in a tired voice, "I have seen this happen many times before. The Draconians choose a planet. They send their armada. The planet falls. It always happens the same way." "But Earth is different," Tae-jin said, stepping closer to the giant alien. "We have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. We never give up." Another alien, this one looking like a giant insect, clicked its mandibles. "Every species thinks they are special. Every species thinks they are different. They all become slaves in the end." On the screen, red dots began to appear at the edge of Earth's solar system. The Draconian Armada had arrived, 50,000 ships, each one alive and breathing like a giant beast. The bioships could heal themselves when damaged. They could change their shape to fight better. They had weapons that could crack planets in half. Back on Earth, Admiral Kyung-soo stood in the command center deep under the mountains of Korea. Red lights flashed all around him. Hundreds of people worked at computer screens trying to track the alien ships. "How many?" Kyung-soo asked. 50,000 ships, sir," said a young officer. "Maybe more. They're too far away to count exactly." Kyung-soo closed his eyes for a moment. He had fought in many wars, but nothing like this. Earth's best fighters were just metal ships with simple weapons. The aliens had living ships that could think and fight on their own. "Send a message to all military bases around the world," Kyung-soo said. "Tell them to prepare for invasion. Tell them to fight with everything we have." "Sir," said another officer, "the aliens are sending us a message." The main screen lit up with the image of a Draconian commander. The alien looked like a giant lizard, walking on 2 legs. Its scales were dark green, and its eyes glowed red. Sharp teeth filled its mouth. "People of Earth," the Draconian said in perfect English, "I am Commander Drakthul. Your planet has been chosen for absorption into the Draconian Empire. You have 1 day to surrender. If you fight, you will all die. If you surrender, some of you will live as slaves." The screen went black. The command center was silent for a long moment. "Sir?" asked the young officer. "What are your orders?" Kyung-soo looked around the room at all the people working to defend their planet. These people had families, children, dreams. They deserved better than slavery. "Send a message back," Kyung-soo said. "Tell them Earth's answer is no." In her laboratory, Dr. Hae-won studied the data they had collected about Draconian biology. She had spent years learning about alien life, forms, but the Draconians were different from anything she had seen before. "They're not just reptiles," she said to her assistant. "Look at these readings. Their bodies are part biological, part machine. Their blood carries nanobots that repair damage instantly." "How do we fight something like that?" her assistant asked. Hae-won stared at the data on her screen. "I don't know yet. But everything has a weakness. Everything can die." The Draconian ships moved closer to Earth. They traveled in perfect formation like a school of deadly fish swimming through space. Each ship was the size of a city, covered in scales that shifted and moved like living skin. Weapons grew from their sides like tumors, ready to destroy anything that opposed them. On the lead ship, Commander Drakthul studied the information about Earth. The planet was covered mostly in water, with large land masses where billions of humans lived. The humans had simple technology: metal ships, chemical weapons, nuclear bombs that could barely scratch a Draconian vessel. "This will be easy," Drakthul told his officers. "Easier than the conquest of Altair Prime. Easier than the siege of the Crystal Worlds. These humans are primitives playing with fire." But something bothered him about the data. Every other species they had conquered had tried to negotiate or run away when they saw the Armada. The humans had simply said no. It was almost insulting. Back at Nexus Prime, Ambassador Tae-Jin made one last attempt to get help from the Galactic Council. "You talk about the non-interference doctrine," Tae-Jin said. "But what happens when the Draconians finish with Earth? Do you think they will stop? Do you think your worlds will be safe forever?" Vexitar looked sad. "Human, I am sorry for what will happen to your people, but the Draconians are too strong. We learned long ago that it is better to stay out of their way." "Then you are all cowards," Tae-Jin said. The room gasped at his words. No one had ever called the Council cowards before. "Perhaps," Vexitar said quietly, "but we are living cowards. Your people will be dead heroes." Tae-Jin left the council chamber and returned to his small ship. As he flew back toward Earth, he sent a message to Admiral Kyung-soo. "The council will not help us," he said. "We are alone." "Good," Kyung-soo replied. "We work better alone anyway." The Draconian Armada reached Earth's moon. Their ships spread out around the planet like a net, blocking all escape routes. Landing craft began to separate from the main ships, carrying thousands of Draconian soldiers toward the surface. In the command center, alarms rang constantly. Red lights flashed as reports came in from around the world. "First landing craft touching down in North America," reported one officer. "Confirmed landings in Europe and Asia," said another. "South America is under attack." Kyung-soo watched the reports pile up on his screen. The invasion had begun. Earth's armies were moving to meet the enemy, but everyone knew it would not be enough. "Sir," said the young officer, "what if we can't win?" Kyung-soo smiled for the first time in days. "Then we make them pay for every inch of our world. We make them remember that humans do not go quietly into the dark." Above them, the Draconian ships continued to arrive. The largest ship of all, the command vessel, hung directly over the Pacific Ocean like a dark moon. Inside, Commander Drakthul prepared to watch the conquest of another world. But something was different about this planet. Something he could not quite understand. The humans were not running. They were not begging for mercy. They were getting ready to fight. "Interesting," Drakthul said to himself. "Let us see what these primitives can do." The war for Earth was about to begin. The first Draconian dropship crashed into downtown Seoul like a falling star. The impact shook buildings for miles around and left a crater the size of a football field. From the smoking wreckage, hundreds of Draconian soldiers emerged. Lieutenant Bo-Ra pulled her fighter jet into a steep climb, trying to get a better view of the enemy. She had been flying for the Korean Air Force for 8 years, but nothing had prepared her for this. The Draconian soldiers were huge, nearly 3 meters tall, with thick scales covering their bodies. They carried weapons that fired beams of red energy, cutting through concrete and steel like paper. "Command, this is Eagle 1, Bo-Ra spoke, into her radio. "I have eyes on the enemy. They're moving fast through the city streets." "Copy, Eagle 1, came the reply from Admiral Kyung-soo. "You are cleared to engage." Bo-Ra lined up her shot and fired 2 missiles at a group of Draconian soldiers. The explosion sent smoke and debris flying, but when it cleared, the aliens were still standing. Their scales had turned darker, absorbing the blast like armor. "Direct hit. No effect," Bo-Ra reported. "Repeat. Weapons are not effective." "General." Wu Jin crouched behind an overturned car, watching his soldiers fire at the advancing Draconians. The bullets bounced off their scales like raindrops. When the aliens fired back, entire buildings exploded into flames. "Fall back!" Wu Jin shouted to his men. "Use the subway tunnels!" This was not how wars were supposed to work. In every war Wu Jin had studied, both sides had similar weapons. But the Draconians were like gods fighting against children with sticks. One of his soldiers, a young man named Tae-ho, refused to retreat. He picked up a rocket launcher and fired it straight at a Draconian warrior. The alien caught the rocket in midair with one clawed hand and crushed it like an egg. "Impossible," Tae-ho whispered. The Draconian warrior tilted its head, studying the human. Then it spoke in perfect Korean. "Your weapons are toys," the alien said. "Surrender now and live as slaves. Fight and die as fools." Tae-ho pulled out a grenade, pulled the pin, and threw himself at the alien. The explosion killed them both. Wu Jin felt tears in his eyes as he watched his soldier die. But something important had happened. For just a moment, the Draconian had looked surprised. These aliens were used to fighting with their advanced weapons. They were not used to enemies who would sacrifice their own lives. "Maybe that's how we win," Wu Jin said to himself. "Not with better weapons, but with something they don't understand." In his underground workshop, engineer Jae-min studied pieces of a destroyed Draconian weapon. The metal was like nothing on Earth. It seemed to be alive, pulsing with a faint heartbeat. "This is not metal," he said to his team. "This is biological. It's grown, not built." "How do we fight something that grows?" asked his assistant. Jae-min picked up a small piece of the alien metal and put it under a microscope. What he saw made him gasp. The metal was covered in tiny cells like human skin, but these cells were dying now that they were separated from the main weapon. "Everything that lives can die," Jae-min said. "We just need to find the right poison." Above ground, the war continued to go badly for Earth. In London, Draconian bioships landed in the Thames River. The ships looked like giant whales with armor plating and weapon ports. They began to change the water itself, turning it into a thick, green liquid that would feed their technology. In New York, Central Park became a landing zone for more dropships. The aliens moved with perfect coordination, as if they were all parts of the same mind. Human resistance crumbled wherever they went. But in some places, strange things began to happen. In the Amazon rainforest, a group of Draconian soldiers became lost. The humans they were chasing seemed to vanish into the trees like ghosts. When the aliens tried to follow, they found themselves walking in circles. Some of them began to get sick from insects and plants they had never encountered before. "Command," reported one Draconian soldier. "The local life forms are hostile. Request permission to sterilize the area." "Negative," came the reply from Commander Drakthul. "We need the biomass intact. Find another way." But there was no other way. The humans knew their forest. They knew which plants were poisonous, which animals were dangerous, which paths led to safety. The Draconians, for all their advanced technology, were lost. Lieutenant Bora discovered something important during her third combat mission. She was attacking a Draconian bioship when she noticed that its living hull was breathing. The ship inhaled and exhaled like a giant lung. "If it breathes," Bora said to herself, "maybe it can suffocate." She flew her jet straight into the ship's breathing port. The explosion destroyed her plane and damaged her ejection seat, but she survived the crash landing. More importantly, the bioship began to convulse and die, gasping for air it could no longer process. "Command," Bora radioed from her parachute. "I found a weakness. Their ships have lungs. We can block their air intake." General Wu Jin received the report and smiled for the first time since the invasion began. He gathered his remaining officers around a map of Seoul. "Listen carefully," he said. "We cannot fight their technology with our technology. But we can fight their biology with our knowledge. We know this planet. They don't." Captain In-ho led a special forces team through the subway tunnels under Seoul. His mission was to capture a Draconian soldier alive. It seemed impossible, but In-ho had an idea. The Draconians were used to fighting in open spaces with their advanced weapons. But the subway tunnels were narrow and dark. In-ho's team moved quietly through the maintenance shafts, getting above a group of alien soldiers. When the Draconians passed underneath, In-ho's team dropped nets made of Earth's strongest cables. The aliens struggled, but the nets were tangled around their weapons. In-ho's men fired tranquilizer darts, dozens of them, until one of the aliens finally fell unconscious. "We got one," In-ho radioed to command. "One live prisoner, Dr. Hae-won." examined the captured Draconian in her laboratory. The alien was huge, even lying unconscious on the examination table. Its scales shifted color slowly, from dark green to gray and back again. "Fascinating," she said as she took blood samples. "Their entire body is integrated with nanotechnology. But the nanobots need constant communication with their central command to function properly." "What does that mean?" asked her assistant. "It means they're all connected," Haywan said, "like a hive mind. If we can disrupt that connection—" She didn't finish the sentence, but her assistant understood. If the Draconians were connected like a computer network, then maybe they could be hacked like a computer network. Commander Drakthul stood in his command center studying reports from the surface. The conquest was proceeding, but not as quickly. "As expected, human resistance was stronger than predicted. Sir," reported one of his officers, "we have lost contact with Squad 47 in the forest region, and Squad 23 in the underground tunnels," added another officer. "And the bio-ship over the river has stopped responding," said a third. Drakthul's eyes narrowed. In every previous conquest, resistance had collapsed within hours. But the humans had been fighting for 3 days now, and they were getting better. "At it. These primitives are adapting," he said. "Interesting. Send more troops to the surface. Triple the patrols." But even as he gave the orders, Drakthul felt something he had never experienced before: doubt. For the first time in his long military career, he was not certain of victory. On the surface, engineer J-Min had made a breakthrough. He had found a way to turn Earth's simple explosives into weapons that could hurt Draconian biotechnology. The secret was to add certain bacteria from Earth's oceans, bacteria that ate organic metal. "It's not much," J-Min told Admiral Kyung-soo over the radio. "But it's a start. We can make their weapons sick." Around the world, human forces began to adapt. In Moscow, soldiers learned to use the city's old subway system to move unseen. In Cairo, fighters discovered that Draconian technology failed in sandstorms. In Tokyo, engineers began building traps using the aliens' own biometal against them. The war was far from over. Earth's cities were still burning, and millions of people had died. But something had changed. The humans were no longer just running and dying. They were learning, adapting, fighting back. And in the depths of space, other alien civilizations watched their instruments with growing amazement. The readings showed something that should have been impossible. The Draconian invasion was slowing down. For the first time in galactic history, someone was fighting the Draconians and not losing immediately. "This is unprecedented," whispered an observer from the Galactic Council. "How are these primitives still alive?" 3 months had passed since the invasion began. The war that Commander Drakthul had expected to end in days was still raging across Earth's surface. In his command ship, red warning lights flashed constantly as reports of failed missions poured. Dr. Sunmi sat across from a captured Draconian soldier in an underground facility beneath the mountains of South Korea. The alien was awake now, its red eyes staring at her with a mixture of hatred and something else. Something that looked, almost like fear. "Tell me about your homeworld," Sunmi said calmly in the Draconian language. She had learned it by studying recordings of their communications. The alien's scales shifted to a darker color. "You cannot break me, human. My mind is protected by the collective consciousness of my people." "I'm not trying to break you," Sunmi said with a smile. "I'm trying to understand you. For example, I notice that you always refer to your actions as we instead of I. You said we conquered and we destroyed instead of I conquered or I destroyed." The Draconian's eyes narrowed. "We are one people, one mind, one purpose." "But you're not," Sunmi said, leaning forward. "You're sitting here talking to me. If you were truly one mind, you would know what I'm going to say before I say it. But you don't, do you?" For the first time, the alien looked uncertain. Sunmi made a note on her tablet. She was beginning to understand something important about the Draconian psychology. Captain Inho led his Special Forces team through the ruins of what used to be downtown Seoul. They had painted their faces with mud and wrapped their uniforms in local plants to blend with the destroyed landscape. The Draconians had excellent technology, but they relied too much on it. Target is the communication tower on top of the bioship, Inho whispered to his team. If Dr. Sunmi is right, destroying it should disrupt their local network. The team moved like shadows through the rubble. Inho had studied the Draconian patrol patterns for weeks. The aliens moved in perfect formations, which made them predictable. They never adapted their routes or changed their timing. They followed their programming like robots. The bioship sat in the middle of what used to be a shopping district, its living hull pulsed with green veins that carried information and nutrients throughout its body. On top, a tower of crystalline bone grew like a tree, sending signals to Draconian forces across the city. Inho's team reached the base of the ship. The hull was soft here, like skin. One of his soldiers, a young woman named Hyejin, placed charges of Jamin's biometal-eating bacteria around the soft spots. Charges set, Hyejin whispered. Detonate, Inho ordered. The explosions were small, but the bacteria spread quickly through the ship's nervous system. The bioship began to convulse, its hull changing colors rapidly as it tried to fight off the infection. In the city, Draconian soldiers suddenly stopped moving in formation. Some stood still like statues. Others wandered in circles, confused and lost. The communication network that connected them had been damaged. It worked, Inho said into his radio. The aliens are acting like their brains have been scrambled. Civilian leader Yunji had organized something the galaxy had never seen before, a planet-wide resistance network that included everyone from children to elderly people. From her hidden base in the mountains, she coordinated supply drops, rescue, missions, and intelligence gathering across all of Earth's continents. Report from Australia, said one of her assistants. The Aboriginal guides are leading Draconian patrols into the desert and leaving them there to die of thirst. Report from Canada, said another assistant. The Inuit hunters are using traditional traps to catch Draconian scouts in the Arctic. Report from Africa, said a third. Local fighters are using knowledge of dangerous animals to turn the wildlife against the invaders. Yunji smiled as she marked successful operations on her global map. The Draconians had expected to fight Earth's armies. They had not expected to fight Earth's entire population. Send word to all resistant cells, she said. Phase 2 begins tonight. In a hidden bunker in Seoul, 16-year-old Da-eun stared at multiple computer screens filled with alien code. She had been working for weeks to crack the Draconian computer systems, and finally she was making progress. Got you, she whispered, as she broke through another layer of security. Da-eun had discovered that Draconian technology was not just biological, it was also digital. Their bioships ran on living computers that processed information like electronic brains, and like all computers, they could be hacked. Upload the virus, she said to her computer. The screen flashed green as thousands of lines of code invaded the Draconian network. Across the city, Draconian equipment began to malfunction. Weapons fired randomly, vehicles moved in the wrong directions. Communication systems broadcast Earth music instead of military orders. The virus spread from ship to ship like a digital plague. Commander Drakthul watched his control screens with growing panic. Half of his forces had stopped responding to orders. Bioships were landing in the wrong locations. Some of his soldiers were even fighting each other by mistake. How is this possible? He demanded. Our systems are bio-encrypted. No primitive species should be able to penetrate them. Sir, said one of his officers, we're receiving reports that the humans are using psychological warfare. They're broadcasting messages that claim we are losing the war. Lies! Drakthul roared. We are the Draconian Empire. We do not lose wars. But even as he said it, Drakthul could see the evidence on his screens. The red dots representing his. Forces were disappearing one by one. The invasion was not proceeding as planned. Admiral Kyung-soo stood in his command center, watching the tide of battle change for the first time since the invasion began. Reports were coming in from around the world. Successful ambushes captured alien equipment, disrupted communications. Sir, said one of his officers, the president is asking for a status report. Tell him we're winning, Kyung-soo said. Sir, are we really winning? Kyung-soo looked at the global map showing the locations of Draconian forces. 3 months ago, the red markers had covered most of Earth's major cities. Now, many of those markers were gone or isolated. Not yet, he said. But we're not losing anymore. And for the Draconians, that's the same thing as defeat. In the Amazon rainforest, a Draconian patrol had been lost for 2 weeks. The jungle seemed to move around them, changing its paths and hiding its secrets. Their bioscanners detected human life everywhere, but when they investigated, they found only trees and animals. The patrol leader, a veteran of 50 conquered worlds, was beginning to understand a terrible truth. The humans were not just defending their planet, they were using it as a weapon. Every plant, every animal, every natural feature of Earth was turned against the invaders. "Command!" he radioed desperately. "Request immediate extraction. We are being hunted." But there was no response from command. Da-Un's virus had infected their communication network, and the patrol was truly alone in a hostile world. Above Earth's atmosphere, the Galactic Council's monitoring station recorded data that defied all previous understanding of warfare. The Draconian Armada, which had conquered 1,000 worlds without a single defeat, was retreating from multiple battlefields. "This is impossible," said the station commander. "A 4-armed being from the Centauri system. The readings must be wrong." "I've checked them 3 times," said his assistant. "The data is correct. The Draconian invasion force is shrinking." "Shrinking how? Are they retreating?" "No, sir. The ships are still in orbit, but the number of active Draconian soldiers on the surface is decreasing every day. They're not retreating. They're just disappearing." The station commander stared at the data in disbelief. In 1,000 years of galactic history, no one had ever made Draconian soldiers disappear. Back on Earth, Dr. Haywan made a discovery that would change the war forever. While studying captured Draconian biotechnology, she found something unexpected in their genetic code. "They're not just one species," she told Admiral Kyung-soo over a secure communication link. "The Draconians are a combination of dozens of different alien species they've conquered over the millennia. They absorb their enemies and make them part of their collective." "What does that mean for us?" Kyung-soo asked. "It means they know how to adapt to anything they conquer," Haywan said. "But it also means they have a weakness. All these different species in their genetic code create instabilities. If we can exploit those instabilities—" She didn't finish the sentence, but Kyung-soo understood. If Earth could find a way to turn the Draconians' greatest strength against them, the war might not be lost after all. As night fell over the battlefields of Earth, the human resistance prepared for another day of impossible survival. They had learned to fight an enemy that should have been unbeatable. They had turned their planet into a weapon and their diversity into strength. And somewhere in the depths of space, other civilizations began to whisper a question that had never been asked before. What if the Draconians could actually lose? 6 months after the invasion began, Admiral Ji-sung stood on the deck of his submarine beneath the Pacific Ocean. Through the periscope, he could see the massive Draconian command ship floating on the surface like a living island. Its biohull, pulsed with green veins and tentacle-like appendages, trailed in the water, feeding on Earth's marine life. "Target acquired," Ji-sung said to his crew. "Prepare the new torpedoes." These were not ordinary torpedoes. Engineer Jae-min had filled them with a cocktail of Earth's most aggressive bacteria, viruses, and parasites. If the Draconian ships were truly alive, then they could get sick just like any living thing. "Torpedoes away," reported his weapons officer. The bioship's hull convulsed as the torpedoes struck. Green blood leaked into the ocean as Earth's microscopic life forms began to eat the alien vessel from the inside. The ship's tentacles thrashed wildly before going still. "Direct hit," Ji-sung reported to command. "The target is showing signs of biological distress." But the real surprise came next. As the command ship died, every Draconian soldier within 100 kilometers suddenly stopped fighting. They stood motionless like broken toys, their connection to the hive mind severed. "Admiral," his communications officer said with excitement, "ground forces are reporting that the enemy has stopped moving. They're just standing there." Ji-sung smiled grimly. The humans were learning that their enemy's greatest strength was also their greatest weakness. In his laboratory deep beneath the mountains, scientist Hyun-woo studied samples of Draconian blood under a microscope. What he saw made him both fascinated and horrified. The blood was alive with millions of tiny machines, nanobots that repaired damage and shared information across the entire Draconian collective. Every drop of their blood is a computer, he explained to his assistant, and every computer can be infected with a virus. Hyun Woo had been working with Yun, the teenage hacker, to create something new, a biological computer virus that could spread through the draconian bloodstream. It was part software, part disease, and completely deadly to their biotechnology. "Are you sure this will work?" his assistant asked nervously. "No," Hyun-woo admitted. "But if it does work, it will spread through their entire species in hours. Every draconian ship, every soldier, every piece of equipment they have will be infected." He loaded the virus into an aerosol spray device. One breath of contaminated air would be enough to infect a draconian soldier. From there, the virus would spread to others through their shared communication network. "It's ready," he announced, to Admiral Kyung-soo. "But we'll only get one chance. Once they detect the virus, they'll develop immunity." Resistance leader So Young crouched in the ruins of what used to be Paris, watching a draconian patrol move through the destroyed streets. Her global network of fighters had grown to include millions of people from every country on Earth. They communicated through hidden radio networks and coordinated attacks across multiple time zones. "Team Alpha, report," she whispered into her radio. "In position above the patrol," came the reply from a sniper hidden in a damaged building. "Team Beta, report. Charges set on the bio ship landing pad," reported a demolitions expert. "Team Gamma, report. Virus deployment ready," said a biochemist carrying one of Hyun-woo's spray devices. So Young had learned something important during the long months of resistance. The Draconians were used to fighting armies, but they were not prepared to fight. An entire population. Every human on Earth had become a potential soldier, spy, or saboteur. "Execute Operation Plague," she commanded. Around the world, similar teams struck simultaneously. The virus deployment was coordinated to happen at exactly the same moment in dozens of cities. Within minutes, infected Draconian soldiers were unknowingly spreading the biological weapon to their comrades. Former prisoner Seok Jin had escaped from a Draconian prison camp 3 weeks ago. The aliens had captured him during the early days of the invasion and tried to study human psychology. But Seok Jin had learned more about them than they had learned about him. "Their entire society is based on fear," he explained to Admiral Kyung-soo in a debriefing session. "Not fear of death. They don't mind dying for the collective. They fear failure. They fear being cut off from the hive mind. Most of all, they fear the unknown." "How do we use that against them?" Kyung-soo asked. "We become the unknown," Seok Jin said with a dark smile. "We become something they can't understand, can't predict, and can't control." He had brought back crucial intelligence about draconian weaknesses. Their bioships needed to return to special charging stations to refuel. Their soldiers required regular injections of nanobots to maintain their connection to the collective. Most importantly, their command structure could not function without constant communication between all units. "If we can isolate their forces," Seok-jin explained, "they become vulnerable. Cut off from the hive mind, individual draconian soldiers are actually quite weak." Captain In-ho had taken this information and used it to develop new tactics. His special forces teams now targeted communication nodes, charging stations, and supply lines. Instead of fighting draconian soldiers directly, they attacked the infrastructure that kept those soldiers functional. "Hit and run," In-ho told his teams. "Never engage them in direct combat. Make them chase us through terrain they don't understand. Tire them out. Confuse them. Make them afraid." The strategy was working. Draconian forces that had seemed unstoppable 6 months ago were now hesitant and defensive. They moved in smaller groups, wasted energy on unnecessary patrols, and jumped at shadows. Commander Drak Thul paced back and forth in his command center like a caged animal. The reports from the surface were getting worse every day. Entire units had gone silent. Bioships were developing mysterious illnesses. His soldiers were requesting evacuation from a planet that should have been conquered months ago. "Sir," said one of his officers, "we're receiving priority communications from the Draconian High Command. They're asking for a status report." Drak Thul's scales turned a darker shade of green. How could he explain that the most powerful military force in the galaxy was being defeated by primitives with Stone Age technology? "Tell them the situation is complex," he said finally. "Sir, they're also sending reinforcements. 3 more," Armadas are en route to Earth. Dracthul felt a moment of relief. Even if these humans had learned to fight, they could not possibly stand against 4 armadas. But his relief was short-lived. Reports started coming in of system failures across the fleet. The virus that Hyunwoo had created was spreading faster than anyone had expected. Bioships were shutting down as their living computers crashed. Soldiers were collapsing as their nanobots stopped working. "Medical emergency on Deck 7, announced the ship's computer. "Biological contamination detected." "Medical emergency on Deck 12. "Medical emergency on Deck 15. Dracthul realized with growing horror that his own ship was infected. The humans had created a weapon that turned the Draconians' technology against them. On Earth's surface, the tide of battle had turned completely. Human forces were no longer just defending, they were attacking. Draconian positions that had seemed secure were falling one by one as coordinated strikes hit their weak points. Engineer Jae-min had perfected his bio-metal-eating bacteria and was now mass-producing it in hidden factories around the world. Every bullet, every grenade, every explosive device was coated with the stuff. Draconian armor that had once been impenetrable was now dissolving under sustained fire. "We're actually winning," Jaemin said to his team with amazement. "6 months ago, they were gods. Now they're just another enemy that bleeds." Young Da-Yun had expanded her computer virus beyond anything she had originally imagined. The code was now so complex that it could learn and adapt, spreading through Draconian networks faster than they could develop countermeasures. "Their security systems are completely compromised," she reported to Admiral Kyung-soo. "I have access to their communications, their navigation systems, even their life support. I can turn their own ships against them." From space, the monitoring stations of the Galactic Council watched in stunned silence as 3 more Draconian armadas approached Earth. The galaxy expected to witness the final destruction of the human species. Instead, they saw something unprecedented. In galactic history, the moment the reinforcement fleets entered Earth's solar system, they began to experience the same system failures as the original invasion force. The virus had spread beyond Earth's atmosphere, carried by Draconian ships returning to orbit. Every vessel in the combined armadas was now infected. "This is impossible," whispered the Council observer. 4 armadas. 4 entire armadas are being neutralized by a single primitive planet. On Earth, Admiral Kyung-soo received reports that seemed too good to be true. Draconian forces were retreating from major cities. Their bioships were falling from the sky like diseased birds. Soldiers were surrendering or simply disappearing into the wilderness. "Sir," said his communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the Draconian command ship." The main screen lit up with the image of Commander Dracthul. The alien looked defeated, his scales pale and his eyes filled with something that humans had never seen in a Draconian before. Fear. "Humans of Earth," Dracthul said in a weak voice. "The Draconian Empire offers you terms, General Young-ho stood on the observation deck of Earth's first captured Draconian bioship, watching the planet below through its living windows. The ship's hull had been infected with Hyunwoo's virus and reprogrammed by Da-Eun's hacking techniques. Now it obeyed human commands, its alien technology turned into a weapon against its former masters. "Status report," Young-ho said to his mixed crew of human soldiers and reprogrammed Draconian biocomputers. "All systems operational," reported the ship's artificial intelligence, which now spoke in perfect Korean. "We have successfully integrated human neural patterns with Draconian biotechnology." Young-ho smiled grimly. The integration process had been Dr. Mi-kyung's breakthrough. She had discovered how to connect human minds directly to Draconian living computers, creating hybrid systems that were far more advanced than either species could achieve alone. "Sir," said one of his officers, "we're receiving distress signals from the remaining Draconian ships. They're requesting permission to retreat from Earth's solar system." "Denied," Young-ho said without hesitation. "No one leaves until we say they can leave." This was something new in human warfare, the complete control of the battlefield. For the first time in the war, Earth was dictating terms to the Draconians. Dr. Mi-kyung worked feverishly in her new laboratory aboard the captured bioship. She had made a discovery that would change everything. The Draconian nanobots in their bloodstream could be reprogrammed to serve human interests. More than that, They could be used to convert other Draconians to human control. It's not just biological warfare anymore, she explained to General Young-ho. We can actually change their fundamental programming. Turn their soldiers into our soldiers. Transform their ships into our ships. She held up a vial of modified nanobots. One injection of this into a Draconian bloodstream, and within hours they'll be completely loyal to Earth. They'll still look like Draconians, but they'll think like humans. How many can we convert? Young-ho asked. All of them, Mi-kyung said quietly. Every Draconian in the solar system can be converted. We don't have to kill them. We can absorb them. The implications were staggering. Earth would not just defeat the Draconian Armadas, it would acquire them. Space Force Captain Jin Woo led the first human fleet into space using captured and converted Draconian bioships. The vessels moved with an eerie grace, their living hulls rippling with new patterns of green and blue that marked them as Earth vessels. This is Fleet Command to all ships, Jin Woo announced over the communication network. We are now in position around the main Draconian force. Begin Operation Absorption. The human fleet moved to surround the remaining Draconian ships. But instead of attacking with weapons, they deployed Mi-kyung's conversion nanobots in massive clouds. The microscopic machines spread through space like an invisible plague, seeking out Draconian bioships and their crews. Contact confirmed, reported one of Jin Woo's pilots. The nanobots are penetrating their hull defenses. Within hours, the effects became visible. Draconian ships began to change color, their hull patterns shifting from the traditional green and black to Earth's blue and green. More importantly, their crews stopped fighting entirely. Fleet Command, came a transmission from what had been a Draconian battlecruiser. This is Captain Rakthul. My ship and crew are now under Earth command. We await your orders. Jin Woo stared at the transmission in amazement. The alien captain was speaking perfect Korean, and its scales had shifted to a lighter color that somehow looked more human. The last Draconian Admiral Zekthar watched his fleet disappear one ship at a time. His tactical displays showed friendly, vessels suddenly changing to neutral, then to enemy. But there was no battle, no explosion, no destruction. The ships were simply changing sides. This is not possible, Zekthar said to his remaining officers. How are they converting our bioships? How are they turning our people? Sir, said his communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. The main screen showed General Young-ho standing on the bridge of a converted Draconian flagship. Behind him, human and converted Draconian officers worked side by side. Admiral Zekthar, Young-ho said calmly, I offer you one chance to surrender peacefully. Join us willingly, and your crew will be treated with respect. Continue to resist, and we will take your ship by force. You cannot defeat the Draconian Empire, Zekthar roared. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have existed for millions of years. Yes, Young-ho said with a strange smile. And now, all of that experience and knowledge belongs to Earth. Every world you conquered, every technique you mastered, every piece of technology you developed, we have absorbed it all through your converted soldiers. Zekthar looked around his bridge and saw the truth in his officers' eyes. They were already infected. The nanobots were already in their bloodstreams, already changing their thoughts and loyalties. What are you? Zekthar whispered. We are human, Young-ho said, and humans adapt. The conversion process was not violent or painful. Converted Draconians later described it as awakening from a long dream. Suddenly they could think for themselves, instead of being part of a collective consciousness. They retained all their memories and knowledge, but their loyalty belonged to Earth. Captain Rakthul, formerly one of Drakthul's most trusted officers, now worked alongside human engineers to improve the bioship designs. The combination of human creativity and Draconian biotechnology produced vessels that were far superior to either species could create alone. The humans don't just copy our technology, Rakthul explained to other converted Draconians. They improve it. They ask questions we never thought to ask. They see possibilities we never imagined. Engineer Jae-min studied the converted Draconian technology with endless fascination. The bioships could repair themselves, adapt to different environments, and even evolve new capabilities over time. Combined with human innovation, they became something entirely new. "We're not just building better ships," Jamin said to his mixed team of human and Draconian engineers. "We're creating a new form of life, ships that can think, adapt, and grow." The implications went far beyond military applications. These hybrid bioships could explore deep space, terraform planets, and even reproduce to create new vessels. Earth was not just winning a war, it was evolving into something greater. Admiral Zekthar made his final transmission as a free Draconian commander. He sat alone on his bridge, his officers having been converted one by one over the past week. "This is Admiral Zekthar, to any remaining Draconian forces in the galaxy," he said into his communicator. "Do not come to Earth. Do not attempt to rescue us. The humans are not what they appear to be." He paused, looking at his empty bridge with its dead control panels. The nanobots had already begun to shut down his ship's systems. "They do not conquer," Zekthar continued. "They do not destroy. They absorb. They take everything you are and make it part of themselves. They are not warriors. They are something worse. They are evolution itself." The transmission ended as the conversion nanobots finally reached Zekthar's brain. His eyes closed for a moment, then opened again with a different light in them. "This is Admiral Zekthar to Earth Command," he said in perfect Korean. "My ship and remaining crew are ready to serve." Dr. Mi-kyung received a disturbing report from her research team. The conversion process was working too well. Not only were the Draconians being absorbed into human service, but humans were also beginning to acquire Draconian traits. "The nanobots are causing mutations in human subjects," she reported to General Young-ho. "Enhanced strength, improved healing, better integration with biotechnology. Some of our pilots are developing scales and improved reflexes." "Is this dangerous?" Young-ho asked. "I don't know," Mi-kyung admitted. "We're becoming something new. Not quite human, not quite Draconian, something in between." Young-ho looked at his hands and noticed that his fingernails had become slightly pointed, more like claws. His skin had a faint greenish tint that he had not noticed before. "Maybe that's what we need to be," he said quietly. "Maybe pure humanity isn't enough to survive in a galaxy full of hostile aliens." From their monitoring stations, the Galactic Council watched the impossible unfold. The Draconian Armadas had not been destroyed. They had vanished. 4 entire fleets had simply stopped being Draconian and started being something else. "The biosignatures are still there," reported the monitoring station commander. "But they're reading as Earth vessels now. How is that possible?" "Unknown," said his assistant. "But, sir, we're receiving long-range sensor data from other parts of the galaxy. The converted ships are leaving Earth's solar system. They're spreading out across known space." The commander felt a chill run through his alien physiology. "Are they expanding?" "It appears so, sir. The Earth vessels are visiting worlds that the Draconians previously conquered. And, sir, those worlds are going quiet, too." As the truth sank in, the monitoring station crew realized they were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. Earth had not just defeated the Draconian Empire. Earth was absorbing it, converting it, making it part of itself. And now the converted fleet was spreading that absorption to the rest of the galaxy. 3 months had passed since the last Draconian ship had been converted. Ambassador Tae-jin stood once again in the Great Hall of Nexus Prime, but everything had changed. The same alien beings who had refused to help Earth now watched him with a mixture of awe and terror. Tae-jin himself looked different. His skin had a slight greenish tint, and his eyes held flecks of the same bioluminescence found in Draconian technology. He was no longer purely human, but something new, a hybrid of human creativity and alien enhancement. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Tae-jin said, his voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. "I bring greetings from Earth and our new Draconian partners." Council leader Vexitar, the ancient being who had witnessed countless civilizations rise and fall, spoke in a trembling voice. "Ambassador, we must ask, what happened to the Draconian Armadas? Our sensors show they still exist, but they no longer read as Draconian vessels." Tae-jin smiled, and his teeth were slightly sharper than they had been 6 months ago. "They joined us," honored Vexitar. They saw the wisdom of cooperation over conquest. Joined you? Asked another council member, a crystalline being from the Rigel system. The Draconians do not join anyone. They conquer or they die. The old Draconians, yes, Taejin agreed. But we helped them evolve beyond their limitations. We showed them that there was a better way to exist in the galaxy. Captain Dong Hyun led humanity's first diplomatic mission to the Centauri worlds, flying in a bioship that pulsed with the combined technologies of Earth and the former Draconian Empire. His crew was a mix of humans and converted Draconians, working together with perfect harmony. "Sir," reported his navigation officer, a former Draconian who now spoke fluent Korean, "we're approaching the Centauri home system. They're broadcasting surrender terms." Dong Hyun frowned. "We haven't even made contact yet. Why are they surrendering?" "Sir," said his human communications officer, "I think they're scared of us." The main screen showed dozens of Centauri defense, ships fleeing their own home system at maximum speed. Their panicked transmissions filled the communication channels. "Earth vessels approaching. All civilians evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. The humans are here. May the ancestors preserve us. They've come to absorb us like they did the Draconians," Dong Hyun sighed. This was not how first contact was supposed to work. Dr. Ye-jin presented her research findings to a gathering of the galaxy's top scientists on the research station at Proxima Centauri. Her audience was a mix of different alien species, all united by their fear of what Earth had become. "The conversion process is not violent," she explained, showing holographic displays of draconian biotechnology merged with human innovations. "The nanobots simply reprogram the subject's neural pathways to remove aggressive tendencies and enhance cooperative behavior." A mantis-like scientist from the Vega system clicked its mandibles nervously. "But you change their fundamental nature. You make them into humans." "Not humans," Ye-jin corrected. "We make them into something better. Hybrid beings that combine the best traits of both species. Enhanced intelligence, improved physical capabilities, extended lifespans, and most importantly, the ability to work together instead of fighting." "And if we refuse this enhancement?" asked a gaseous being from the outer rim. Ye-jin's expression became sad. "Then you remain as you are, alone, limited, and eventually extinct. The galaxy is changing, honored colleagues. We offer evolution. We offer survival." The alien scientists exchanged worried glances. They were beginning to understand that this was not really a choice at all. Back at Nexus Prime, Ambassador Tae-jin stood before the assembled Galactic Council with a proposal that would reshape civilization itself. "We offer the Council a partnership," he said calmly. "Earth's protection in exchange for voluntary cooperation. No more wars between species. No more conquest and slavery. Instead, we work together to build something greater than any of us could achieve alone." Vextar's 4 arms trembled slightly. "And if we refuse, then you remain independent," Tae-jin said with a shrug. "But independence in a galaxy where other species are evolving and improving can be lonely." He gestured to the massive view screen that showed space around the station. Dozens of Earth bioships waited in perfect formation, their living hulls pulsing with alien technologies that had been absorbed and improved. "We have already made contact with 17 civilizations that formerly served the Draconian Empire," Tae-jin continued. "All of them have chosen to join our growing alliance. They discovered that cooperation brings far greater benefits than resistance." "You mean they surrendered?" accused a reptilian council member. "I mean they evolved," Tae-jin corrected. "Just as the Draconians evolved. Just as we all must evolve if we want to survive in the new galaxy." Council leader Vextar looked around the chamber at his fellow council members. Many of them were already showing signs of wanting to accept Earth's offer. The alternative, being left behind while the rest of the galaxy advanced, was too frightening to consider. "What exactly are you proposing?" Vextar asked carefully. Tae-jin smiled, and the bioluminescence in his eyes grew brighter. "Simple. Each member species contributes their unique knowledge and abilities to our collective. In return, they receive access to our combined technologies, protection from hostile forces, and the enhancement treatments that will allow them to reach their full potential." Enhancement treatments, repeated Vextar. You mean the nanobots that converted the Draconians? Among other things, yes, but each species receives customized treatments based on their biology and culture. We don't want to make everyone the same. We want to make everyone better. Captain Dong Hyun had successfully made peaceful contact with the Centauri Federation after their initial panic. The negotiations took place on neutral ground, a space station that had been quickly grown from Earth biotechnology. Your offer is generous, said the Centauri Prime Minister, a tall being with translucent skin and multiple hearts. But we must ask, what guarantee do we have that you won't simply absorb us like you did the Draconians? The same guarantee the Draconians have, Dong Hyun replied, gesturing to his converted Draconian officers. Ask them if they feel absorbed or enslaved. The former Draconian Admiral Zekthar stepped forward. His scales had taken on a blue-green coloration that marked him as part of Earth's alliance, but his intelligence and personality remained intact. Prime Minister, Zekthar said in the Centauri language, I retained all of my memories, my knowledge, and my sense of self. What I lost was the compulsion to conquer and destroy. What I gained was the ability to create and cooperate. I am still Draconian, but I am also something more. The Prime Minister studied the converted Admiral carefully. And you serve Earth willingly? I serve the Alliance willingly, Zekthar corrected. Earth does not rule us. We are partners in building a better galaxy. Dr. Ye Jin had been working on the most ambitious project in human history, the creation of hybrid worlds where multiple species could live and work together. The first test planet was a former Draconian colony that had been transformed into something unprecedented. The biodomes can support any atmosphere or gravity requirement, she explained to a group of visiting alien dignitaries. Humans, Draconians, Centauri, and even silicon-based life forms can all live comfortably on the same world. The dignitaries watched in amazement as different species worked side by side in laboratories, farms, and factories. Children from different worlds played together in parks designed to accommodate various biological needs. This is impossible, whispered a delegate from the Rigel system. Different species cannot coexist like this. There are always conflicts, competition, wars. Only when they're forced to compete for limited resources, Yejin replied. Our biotechnology can create unlimited resources. Our nanobots eliminate the psychological barriers that cause conflict. When you remove scarcity and aggression, cooperation becomes natural. The delegation toured factories where humans and Draconians worked together to build bioships that could travel between galaxies. They visited schools where children learned from teachers of multiple species. They saw art galleries filled with works that no single species could have created alone. By the end of the tour, several delegates were asking about the application process for their own worlds to join the Alliance. Back on Earth, Admiral Kyung-soo stood in his command center. But it no longer looked the same. The walls were now covered with living biodisplays that showed the expanding influence of Earth's alliance. Green dots marked converted worlds, blue dots showed peaceful member species, and red dots indicated the few remaining independent systems. Status, report, he said to his aide, a young woman whose Korean features were enhanced with the slightly scaled skin that marked her as one of the new hybrid humans. 17 new member worlds this month, she reported. The Vegan Collective has agreed to share their crystal technology. The Altarian Republic is considering full integration. Only 12 systems are still maintaining complete independence. Kyung-soo nodded. The expansion was proceeding faster than anyone had expected. Word was spreading through the galaxy that Earth's alliance offered something that no civilization had ever achieved before. True peace and prosperity for all member species. Any resistance? He asked. Minimal. Leandro,